Hi, if you're the parent of a child with special needs and feel overwhelmed with managing services, behavior, school, scared about what's going to happen when your child transitions into adulthood, this page is for you. Hi, I'm Celine. I am the co-founder of Life Connect Health. We are a provider of coaching and behavioral health services for underserved population and individuals with complex needs. One of the things that we have identified through our years of services is that a lot of our referrals are coming from youth, young adults who are really having a hard time transitioning from that school environment into adulthood and understand how complex that transition can be. So we hope to be helpful and provide you with some specific actionable tools that you can utilize to make that transition a little bit easier. My partner and co-founder, Dr. Dreisner, and I recently co-authored a book about transitioning children from pediatric psychiatric care into adult psychiatric care. And although that is a very important topic and something that needs to be managed very, very well, there is so much more that goes into a successful transition. So today is the first of a series of episodes that we will do, and we'll have different guests addressing topics such as guardianship, how to understand what services are available through your state's Medicaid waiver, how to transition your healthcare and the psychiatric care to the adult system, how to access behavioral health services, and more importantly, how do we prepare our youth for that upcoming transition, and how do we increase their ability to become self-advocate, maximize independence, and really identify what's needed in their life and their support and services for them to live a quality life. First, to understand the challenges, it's important to understand what the experience is going to be. So as a child, transitioning into adult services represents a lot of loss. It's a loss of structure from the school. It's a loss of predictability, knowing exactly what the weekday routine looks like. It's a loss of relationship with peers, teachers. Even if someone is not socially outward, that positive reinforcement that a teacher provides is meaningful for a lot of youth and children. So there's a lot of loss of meaningful activity, and of course, fear about what comes next. What environment will I be at? Will I be able to make friends? Will people be nice to me? What am I going to do during the day? And parents do share that same fear. What services are available? What is my child going to do during the day? How would we replicate the structure that they're receiving in school? A lot of schools have all-inclusive services in that setting. Now everything is going to have to be a little bit more fragmented. So for youth and parents, there is a sense of loss. The relationship you built with maybe your pediatrician or your psychiatrist, those are going to have to be rebuilt. So there's a magnitude of changes that do come with a sense of loss. And of course, a lot of worries, especially if you're a caretaker or a parent. So the need for advocacy that is going to be needed in the years to come is significant. And I'm sure it's very overwhelming for a lot of you. Now, the goal is really to put in place an excellent transition plan to minimize some of the disruptions. And that starts really early. And we can talk more specifically about stages and when you should start looking for services and when you start applying for benefits. But more importantly, at the starting point, and that can start at any moment, it's understanding and articulating what is going to be a meaningful life for your child once they graduate from that system. And it is so important to encourage self-determination very early on and help and coach your youth, your child, on how to determine what is it that is important to them, right? And a lot of time, a lot of caretaker people that are part of the system of care as of the child will have really good intention, but sometimes are not always very good at doing that and at role modeling how we really help the youth articulating what's important to them. Give you an example. Sometimes, during an IEP meeting, somebody may say, I want to be an NBA player when I grow up. And a lot of time that will be completely dismissed. And that is actually very detrimental. We would never think of a telling a neurotypical child when they tell us they want to be president that that's not a good idea. We jump and say, of course, you can do whatever you want. That is not the message that a lot of children with special need or mental health issues are receiving. So rather than just, supporting the idea or judging the idea, you as a parent really have an opportunity to role model for those participants in your child's care how to manage those situations, how to actually take that dream or that goal that that person expressed and make it a useful discussion to help identify what's important. What would you like about being an NBA player? Is it you like the idea of playing with a team and having friends to be with? Do you like the idea of being active and participating in sports? Is it that you have a favorite team in the city of, I don't know, Chicago? Would that be a goal of yours to travel there and maybe attend a game? And what does that take? And help the person. Well, what would it take to do all of this? What would it take to plan a trip? Would you have to save money? Would you have to get a job? So there is, in discussion, a lot of opportunities to identify what's important to the person. What about that dream? What are the elements of that dreams that make it so attractive? And those elements become a motivation to actually get the youth excited about working on goals, about how to learn new skills. So you as a parent can really role model that. First, have those conversations with your child often. I really like this. Well, what about this do you like? Really asking those questions and understanding what's important to them. There is a wonderful first step to kind of help you guide doing this. And that is it's called the happiness assessment. It was developed by Corinne Harvey. I put the link in the bio. You can access it. And it just kind of helps ask some questions and help the youth develop some insight about what's important to them. It starts very simply with, what are some of the foods that you like, all the way to more complex concept as what would you want people to remember about you if you weren't around, right? So just really from very simple thing to what do you want your legacy to be? What is a life worth living for you? And looking at those different elements. So you have an opportunity very early on to show that advocacy, to role model for others how you can bring your child to learn more about themselves and to understand better what's important to them. And in the process, when you're doing that, you're really helping your child developing those basic self-advocacy skills and self-determination skills where it's no longer, I don't really know what's important to me. I know I like to be around people and socialize. I would love to belong to a team or, I need to be physically active. That's important to me. One of my goals would be to attend this basketball game in this city and travel there. Now that is a much different approach than just saying, I'm not too sure what's important to me. And that's very important that we develop those skills. Now, when we talk about self-advocacy, that is one component of a broader concept of self-determination. And self-determination is really about one's ability to take control and responsibility for their life. That doesn't mean being fully independent. That doesn't mean being fully self-sufficient. That means that their internal motivation is what's driving their life, not external pressure or rewards. So they're not just going through the motion. They're actually actively engaged and motivated by the activities because that's what they wanted to do, or it lines up to some degree with what they have in mind for the future. So what that does in the end is it creates young adults who are future oriented. And again, in our practice, a lot of people that we work with do not have the luxury of having a stable environment or the advocacy of parents, and they really struggle with that. Individuals have much better outcomes when there's a supportive family structure, parents who are advocating, parents who are involved. You guys are superhero. And we hope that we can continue to give you some tips and some guidance to make sure that that transition goes as smooth as possible. And next time, we'll be discussing the transition of medical and psychiatric care from pediatric to adults and give you some tips on how to do this flawlessly. So we hope to see you soon. Like and subscribe.